All right. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So welcome to our exciting panel today. What does 2021 have in store for UK MSPs? Brought to you by Liongard and TTG. First things first, guys, we want this to be super interactive. So please ask questions. You have a wealth of information at your fingertips here today with these amazing panelists. So if you have a question, don't wait until the end. Go ahead and pop it in the chat and we will definitely get to it. So without further ado, let me introduce you to your moderator today, David Tulip.
Hey, Cynthia, thanks for having me. And thank you, everyone out there in the UK, or wherever you may be, joining us today. We're excited to have you with us and excited to share some knowledge and interested to hear what our esteemed panelists have to say. I'll have them introduce themselves in just a tick. But do please drop questions, thoughts into chat. We will be bringing those in as we go. Cynthia will jump up from time to time and interrupt me. And we look forward to having a really engaging session with you guys. Listen, it's been an interesting year. We already know that, or should I say 12 months. And I guess it would be nice if we were just sitting on some sort of desert island right now where it wasn't grey and raining in Houston, or it wasn't snowy here in England. And if we were doing that and you could take one thing, this is the question for you guys on the panel here, yeah, and you have a choice of people, process, or technology. You can only pick one. You taking people, process, or technology? And Perry, I'll go to you with that.
Hello, David. How you doing? Hello, everyone else. People every time, David.
People every time. And where are you from? Give us a quick intro, Perry, if you would.
Yeah, so Perry Ashby, owner of a London-based MSP called Urban Network. I also sit as the chair of the network group community in the UK, which is the community that is aligned to TechnologyToGo.
Good, welcome. We're glad to have you with us. Let's, David, same question to you really then. Where are we going? People, process, or technology? You can only have one word answer on that.
Yeah, I think it's got to be people. I mean, we're humans. We have to have contact. And I think we've dealt with that with this COVID, that we need to be together.
Okay, people it is. And David, maybe give us, for the benefit of our audience, who you are. They probably know, but just to be safe.
Oh, yeah, I'm David Bellini. Matter of fact, lived in London there for about 3 or 4 years when I was heading up the ConnectWise office. So I'm very familiar with probably a lot of you. I've broken bread and sat in a lot of MSPs' offices right there in London and through the Midlands. So definitely good to see everyone, and start a new company now, Password Boss. So.
Ah, that's why he's here, just in case. That's the call to action. David, great to have you with us. And Joe, I don't know if you're going to be different. People, process, technology, where are we going?
I'm going to go with lions. How about lions?
Lions, there you go.
Animals.
I'm going to be totally unoriginal on that one and definitely go with people, because that's where it all starts. And we're a big believer in culture at Liongard, and all of what we're doing for is ultimately for people. Right, so that I will take that every day. I am Joe Alapt, CEO of Liongard. I'm in rainy, cold Houston, Texas right now, and it's been about 20 plus years since I've been to the UK, far too long. So I definitely want to visit and enjoy all the great food and amazing things in London and the other areas in England as well. So soon enough, but happy to be here and excited to chat with you all.
Good, welcome. And as said, people, please fire in those questions and we'll interject those. But we're talking about the UK MSP market, so we thought we'd bring in 2 American chaps. That makes a lot of sense. I don't know if we thought that through. But that said, I guess you guys are quite often ahead of that curve, or at least you tell us you are. And things are often broken that side first, right? So it's been an interesting 12 months. We know that if you know, the whole pandemic and work from home, work from anywhere, that's been big. And if security, I think we was yawning about security before, but again, that's obviously continued. So what are we seeing over that side of the pond? Is there anything that we should be expecting? Are we already there? What's, you know, what's happening over that side of the world? Any views on that?
David, you want to go first?
Sure. You know, I still own an MSP in Tampa, Florida. We started it back in the early 80s. So I've seen a lot of ups and downs in the marketplace here in Tampa, and it's a small practice. It's I think we're about 16 people. Certainly over this last year, I can tell you that my biggest problem right now is trying to get my people back in the office. I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to force them back into the office. Obviously, I'm waiting for the vaccine to come through, and I am offering pay. I'll pay for the vaccine. It is free over here, so that's not necessary. But really, just trying to get everyone back in the office. We've seen, I think, with the whole pandemic, what happened is we've kind of moved technology forward. At least, certainly, the remote office concept, probably a good 5 to 10 years forward. That wouldn't have happened on its own without the pandemic. So I think that's some of the changes that we all have, not just, we're all experiencing that with all of our businesses.
What do you think of that, Joe? Then is that the same thing for you, trying to get people back in the office? You guys all still remote, and is that how the land lies?
So we, about 2/3 of our staff are in Houston. The rest of our team is spread across the U.S. And we have amazing channel partners internationally. All right. So we have an extended team as well. So we are a very remote organization, and the way that you're thinking about this is, much like the on-premise IT infrastructure moved to the cloud, and we think about hybrid, IT environments, we're in a hybrid workplace environment. And we, as David said, like we went through this, 5-year transition in a matter of weeks in terms of office space and how it's handled. And the way that I think about it is that we went through 3 years of digital adoption in 3 weeks. That's essentially what we did in March of last year in the U.S. and it was dramatic. And so in that, there's been a lot of struggles, and all of us have felt it personally in a lot of different ways. But we're arriving in a state where we're seeing a lot of opportunity ahead of us, and that means that as tough as it might have been for MSPs, it's been really tough for internal IT. And that means that there's a reason for that, is that talent is moving towards to the MSP arena. There's a lot of attention there. We all have that expertise in the MSP arena, and there's a lot of great opportunity in 2021 in capitalizing on that. So I'm really excited about what's about to happen.
So a great time to be an MSP then, Perry. Never been easier, right?
Yeah, it's been a dream this last 9 months, I must admit. We had at Urban Network, we had a company presentation yesterday, and one of the comments that was stated on that presentation was that we never want to relive the 6 weeks through March and April, because that was just incredibly difficult for everyone. Everyone's ticket was high priority. Everyone, as Joe says, was fleeing the ship and wanting to work remotely. And us and our teams, all the MSP teams, had to facilitate that and had to do it quickly with systems that probably weren't quite ready for it. So the transformation was huge, and the pressure was massive. So yeah, it was a great time to be an MSP.
So I think that's what we've seen, right? We see that mad rush. Let's get everyone working from home. Let's get them doing what they need to do. And then, quick, maybe we need to get them secure, or whatever it was. So what next? David, you mentioned about, for you, it'd be nice to get people back in the office. So how does that translate to the customers of our MSPs out there? What is that the same? Do you think everyone's dying to get back into the office? What's the view? Maybe it's different if you're staff and if you're management. What do we think on that, guys?
Well, for me, I can tell you that, it depends on the industry, obviously. I think things like lawyers and, a lot of the service industries, some of these industries can pretty successfully work remote. And like Joe said, there's some really good advantages of working remote. I can tell you that a lot of my staff are like, no, they're much more efficient. And I know it. Okay. Now, I think with my younger staff that's, just coming out of college and things like that, or uni, as you guys call it, I think that there's a real benefit for them sitting next to some senior people, because I think they can learn the way a little quicker, have a lot higher chance of being successful. So I'm kind of taking it into this new situation, and I'm offering this for, trying to get my customers to do it as well. My MSP customers is, look, let's get together, at least right now, let's try to get together 1 week a month. Let's all come in. Let's try to, do some stuff 1 week a month. And then I'm going to let people go for the other 3 weeks, at least right now during this transition. And I think that probably you're going to see 30% of your employees never come back. Okay. And nor do we want them to come back. What I mean by that is they'll always be remote, because they're more efficient remote. Okay. And they can do their job, and there's a higher, satisfaction level for them. I do think that because we're humans, and that we do need to be together from time to time. I think my experience when I had a lot of remote staff at ConnectWise was, they got a little disgruntled because they felt, well, I don't feel like I'm connected with everyone. And, I want to be a manager. And I would always tell them, I need you to come in if you want to be a manager. But I thought that remote employees tend to lose touch a little bit. And I think it's our job as owners and general managers to try to get everyone together on a regular basis so that camaraderie does still exist.
Interesting, that's for sure. And I wonder what our audience, I wonder what they're experiencing there, what their views, whether their own staff or whether with their customers, how they see that going. Perry, your views on that? Well, how do you see that playing forward with your own teams and again, maybe looking into your customers?
So I agree with David. The one thing that I think everyone's missing is social interaction or human interaction. Okay, it's important to everyone's psyche, and you can feel part of a team remotely, and there's lots of companies that have done that quite successfully, but they do intersperse it with physical meetings of some description. It keeps the team, it keeps the ethos and the values of the business all in tune and everyone on board. The statement that's always frustrated me is, especially when you hear salespeople calling you around the new normal. I don't think there is not a normal at all these days. You work wherever you work, and you achieve the tasks that you need to do no matter where you are. The bit that I think is important is a sense of belonging, not the work you're doing. And that I think is what us as leaders and us as managers need to realize, is that you need to create a sense of belonging and a sense of unity. Not the task will come, the work will come. It's about creating that sense of feeling or belonging.
Yeah, interesting stuff. So again, we all aligned on people. We said that was the most important thing. We're off to this desert island, we're taking people. It's the wife. I mean, that could become challenging after a while. You may regret the decision, but at first it's the right thing to do. You may realize after a while you should have taken a buddy. You're going to set up a ping pong table or whatever it may be. So we've done people. Let's do some technology, and listen, that's what we do, right? So in terms of what's going on there, we've seen and we've implemented lots of technology the past 12 months. Where's that go next? What's hot, or what changes, Joe? I mean, if you've got any views around that sort of stuff, or what you're seeing, or what you think.
Yeah, a lot of views on that topic. Really, kind of echoing the things that Dave and Perry said about the human interaction side. It's so important. You can't replace it. The physical interaction, it has to happen at some point. And really, what I've started to realize is that the folks or the times in which you went into the office, plugged in, sat inside your office or cubicle, and you didn't interact, you know what? That was deep work time. And you know what? You could do that at home. You didn't need to come into the office for that. And what we're finding is that the moments that you come into the office now, where you get to actually see somebody, we actually don't take it for granted anymore. We're like, oh my God, it's good to see you in person. So that's exciting, right? So I'm excited about getting back into the office space and actually thinking about it differently. Time together should be spent on collaboration. If you're coming in to just sit at a cubicle and work, do that at home. Like, there's really no need for you to commute in to do that. Spend the time to, get to know each other, get to some insight, get to a 10X, which is what I think about a lot, is how do we elevate our game? And when it comes to technology, that means how do you replace, that lack of interaction when you happen to be very remote? And that means that the amount of advancement in collaboration technologies is significant, and the adoption of that technology is significant, and it's so critical. And the reality is, it's not like it's new technology. We all had these, SharePoint sitting around, and Teams and Slack and Zoom. They were just kind of sitting off to the side and used when we needed to. And, like I said earlier, in a 2 to 3 week span in March, April, it all changed to, I need this technology. I cannot live without it. And suddenly all the dust was removed, and that old file server, well, that started getting dust, and SharePoint Online started getting used. And it's interesting how that change happened so quickly, because what we've started to realize is that asynchronous type work, so meaning I can work at 9 o'clock at night, but I'm going to do something that allows somebody else to see that outcome and then collaborate maybe at 8 o'clock in the morning somewhere else. You get into some really unique types of changes in the way people are thinking about working, because not everybody wants to work 8 to 5. Some people want to work at night. Some people want to work during the day. Some people want to work on an island. Great, go work over there. And so let's go collaborate, right? Let's figure out how we can collaborate without necessarily having to always meet at the same time, because we never have enough time. right? That's the thing. We never have enough time. So how do we create that, that insightful moment and then share it somewhere that somebody else can then also gain that thing and then go off and do something with it, right? So to me, it's like we're really turning a corner on something very unique right now.
Yeah, I think there's also a blurring that's taking place there, right? Where it's very easy to have that sort of work-life blur take place. I think we had that before, but even more so now we've been forced at home to work from this space. Where do you stop with those lines? However, you do have that benefit of flexible working. So it's, again, I guess everyone's different. And like you say, it's finding what works for individuals and for companies. So I think that's interesting. Just moving forward, I guess the change that we've seen, and Joe, listen, you used to run an MSP yourself, right? How long ago did you sell out of your MSP?
It was 2012 when we sold it, and then I worked for 2 more years there and left in 2014, end of 2014.
So you missed the fun and games of the past year, right? You could have surfed that wave too, but you've been in that space, and I guess what the guys have seen, which is we used to support 100 customers, across 100 sites. We're now supporting those 100 customers across multiple staff sites. That the endpoint has changed, and that's having a real effect. What's our views on where that goes? And I saw a question come in actually, because price increases. Is there? I think what most of the MSPs in the marketplace have done, to my mind, is that they've done the right thing. They've gone and supported their customers, helped mobilize them, get them working, and probably put in ridiculous amounts of hours and possibly not charged for them or as much as they should have done. And where do they go next with that? Because again, I think many of them have been very, very fair. And I've heard this phrase, which I really like, that 2021 is about survival of the fairest. So, the question here is from Sean Jones out of Jones in Ireland, is contract price increases in the pandemic. Should we go now or hold on for a few months? What's some views on that?
I can, provide some quick input. Be human about it. And if a company is struggling at the moment, not a time to ask for a price increase, right? It's something you need to be careful about. But the way to approach that is, what value are you providing additionally to that end customer? So are you taking care of their Slack or their Teams, their SharePoint, or doing more things? Are you securing them in a higher level? So it's not about just a price increase, but rather some net new value that you're providing them. Because what you said, Dave, is 100% right, which is that we went from a 30-person company that might have been working in an office to now that office plus 30 offices that exist in people's homes. And that does take a lot more effort and a lot more time. And so what we need to do is, as an MSP community, is communicate on the value that we can provide to those 30 satellite offices now to help secure that laptop or desktop that is effectively in a hostile environment. Let's be honest, right? It's not much better than a hotel environment, right? You've got kids running around, you've got a spouse, you've got a lot of things happening there that you have no idea. And any of those things could lead to something bad happening. And so that means there's a lot of opportunity for the MSP to incrementally show value and then incrementally increase that price. And I think that's the trick, is how do you do that in a strong way, so that the customer's like, yeah, they're doing more for me, so I will pay more for that.
And I think they've probably already evidenced that. And I guess the question is now the time. And Perry, maybe bring you in on that, because you're at the sharp end of this as an MSP yourself. You must be considering those things. What are you doing, or what do you plan to do?
Yeah, so sure. I'll just comment on Joe. You have obviously been in my house around the children and wife running around, and me not knowing anything that's going on in the house. That absolutely epitomizes my life right now. In terms of I can answer a couple of questions here that have come through and what are raised. I think what we need to understand is we need to focus on the person now. Technology surrounds that person, not the other way around. We used to always focus on people and securing firewalls, networks, switches, people, computers, that sort of thing. And really what we need to look at is focus on the human or the person, and wrap the security around them. That way, it doesn't matter if they're sitting in the office or if they're sitting at home. We're securing the person around them and everything that they touch, using their identity as opposed to the device. You obviously need to secure devices as much as you can, but it's changed. You have to change away from, we spent a lot of time and effort selling people firewalls and protecting the perimeters and all of these type of interesting services, only for these 30 people to go into, as Joe put, hostile environments. And we've got to support them under a stressful situation. The way that we are approaching price increases, we've helped, and we are still helping and providing, COVID dispensation on fees to our clients as and when, and we're taking it on a case by case and reviewing it each month, basically, to understand the situation and moving forward. We want to survive. We want them to come out the end of it. The IT industry is in a very fortunate position. Like I said, we were very busy. I would expect over the last 9 months, I've sold more hardware than I did the 2 years previous. There was an awful lot of kit that we sold. We are fortunate, but we're absolutely reliant on our customers. If they're not so fortunate and that they fall by the wayside, so do we. That impacts us. No matter how good and how smart you are, it's going to impact. So you have to be mindful. You have to have one eye on that when it comes to price increases and showing value. We're very aware of that. If you, the way that we've reviewed the pricing and what we're offering is exactly what David mentioned. We're adding value. So instead of offering one service, per user service, there's 3 tiers or 4 tiers within that. And depending on what they need, they can stay where they are. Or because we're doing more for them, we're offering more services, supporting SharePoint now and not a NAS or a server sitting in there. And the complexities of what SharePoint and the other services that are wrapped around that provide you, there might be extra fees that you need to do for security. And all we've done is offer tiers. They can stay where they are, but we're offering the service that we can deliver more if they need it. And we believe as our landscape has moved forward, as it ever does, we adapt with it and we'll offer the better service to suit you. All the while, right now, keeping an eye on the fact that I want them to come through the other side with me because I want to continue the journey with them.
Thanks, Perry. Some good stuff there. Cynthia, I think you had something to come in from the floor, right?
Yeah, Wayne Cockerell just brought in a good observation that really piggybacks on what we're talking about here. He said, we've recruited and expanded our tech services team and finding salaries are rising as it's more competitive out there for good IT skills. So our cost base is increasing. That may put pressure on our pricing at some point. So maybe what Wayne is looking for is, what can you do as an MSP to provide this value, provide this service, but maybe cut back somewhere else so that your bottom line isn't suffering. And then you're not also passing all of that on to your customers, right?
David, how about you? You have some thoughts around that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've actually had that exact same situation at our MSP in Tampa. And the way I look at that is as an MSP owner, I'm gaining a lot of efficiencies with, because of the remote, I'm able to get a lot more work done. My guys are probably more chargeable. So I think you have to balance that off a little bit. Yes, I have tried to hold my salaries down, kind of using COVID, saying, hey, look, we all still have jobs. That's the good news. But I did have a person recently leave because he got a lot higher pay at another technology company in Tampa. So, with that in mind, I am very, very cognizant of not wanting to increase my prices until I get a better feel for what's going on in my local economy. This was a down year for us. I mean, although we were pretty successful, we were probably off about 10% on top line revenue and about 10% on bottom line revenue, about the same. So it wasn't bad. And if I get to include in the States, we have a loan that's going to be forgiven. So if I added that in as income, I'd probably be above where I was the previous year. But my point to you is, I think that you're going to have to let some of your staff go. And as long as you keep, good 95% of them, I don't know if I would be raising my prices to my customers right now. I'm not. I'm a little intimidated by trying to do that. So I'm going to stick and wait it out a little bit to kind of get a feel for it. I think that, as time goes on, you'll see that your customers are a little more successful, and then you can probably catch up on the rate at that point.
That's interesting. There's a real squeeze there then, isn't there, really? What we're saying is that we're doing more. We're running around harder and faster to support our customers over multiple sites. Our cost base is maybe increasing around the skills gap. But right now it's from your point of view, David, you're saying let's stick, and I see there's some good commentary again around that. I don't know if there's anything you want to put out that, Cynthia, but I see some good sort of further discussions around that piece from the floor as to
and it
when to
brings
go.
up something. It kind of brought up a question in my mind: is how is your MSP working smarter, not harder right now? How are you? because that is one way, right, to cut your bottom line. So what have you brought in that's helping you work smarter, maybe?
I think I can probably add something to that. Number one, I think recruiting is important for an MSP. Always be recruiting, right? Always looking for new talent. But one thing I would add to that is think about non-traditional hires. So one thing that we've discovered at Liongard that we think is extremely awesome is hiring teachers. It's amazing what teachers bring to the culture at your company. And I'm not going to go into a long explanation of it. Hire a teacher. You'll see what happens. And guess what's going to happen is you're bringing somebody in that on the onset probably has a lower salary, and they're excited about that technology salary you're about to give them. And when you look at the tasks that you're asking some of your team members to do, a lot of them are not very technical. You're going to think it's technical, but managing expirations on a domain and a TLS cert and license expirations, I'm going to tell you guys, it's not very technical. It's very administrative. If you put the right processes in place, you can turn that technical task into something that anyone can be trained to do, and you're giving somebody an on-ramp into the technology industry that they're excited about. And there's plenty of people from outside the traditional places that they want to jump into technology. They know it's something they want to do. So that's one. The other is it's an absolute layup, and that we speak about automation endlessly. And I think that that's something that is very important. We think about 10xing employees. So if an individual is managing 10 Azure environments, we want them managing 100. You don't do that by working harder. You do that with automation, right? So what are they doing repetitively over and over again? Let's just automate that and remove the redundancy and the manual work. Whether it's, hey, I'm documenting this thing manually, I'm assessing it manually, I'm spending 95% of my time doing research. What of that can I automate, right? That's Liongard focuses on that all day long, and ultimately what we can do to for customers is deliver value in terms of visibility. You don't have to do anything new. Just share more of the wins with them. Tell them, celebrate the wins. Tell them what it is that you're doing that's so valuable to them, because I find that that's something just in general technology folks struggle with, and we don't celebrate the win enough, and it doesn't cost you anything. All you have to do is say, hey, I just want to tell you, one of our team members did something amazing and we got this review from you, and I just wanted to share that with you. And it might seem shameless, but I'm telling you, if you don't do it, nobody else is doing it for you. And you get so much more bonus points. And then when you're asking for more money on that contract, you have a higher chance of success, because they're going to remember all those positive things that you've talked about the interactions between your business and their business.
I'm trying to hold Perry back from the screen because you've said 3 words, which I can see him, he's dying. Perry, do you have anything to add on that? I'm guessing.
Well, what's that?
It's the phrase of celebrate a win. Okay, it's hugely important to me. It's something that I've stood by for quite a while. There's enough people in the world that are going to put you back. You need to make sure that you pat everyone else on the back and push them forward. It's really important, and it's something that we've pushed into the network group in the community. That there's a community there of UK leading IT providers that are doing amazing things, and some of them are quite humble. And what we're trying to ask them to do is to share those wins, give other people the confidence to do what they're doing in whatever field it is they're doing it in. And that's exactly what communities are about. You talk about automation. It's a great thing, but having the confidence just to go and do something, to even employ that automation tool, that comes from people. I know we've gone full circle there. Apologies, David, but that comes from people and the confidence of celebrating a win, learning from other people.
Okay, so this is going to segue nicely into another subject, okay? So you're talking about your people and you're talking about celebrating the wins. So let's talk about that internally. Do you feel like you're getting more work out of your engineers when they're working remotely or when they're in the office? Oh, David Bellini, we're going to start with you because you had a face there.
The only reason I made that face is because I asked that same question of my general manager running the MSP, because I don't, I'm a little uncomfortable with it. We tracked hours, so we could always see their billable hours or their effective hours. And I think we've been doing that. And in some ways, some of them are really doing well, others aren't. And I think, what Joe hit on earlier was it's important to have the right people in play in this new world that we're living in. And then also the right processes. One of the things we did get from Joe and Liongard was they're using EOS, and I'm not sure how many people are familiar with that, but the entrepreneurial operating system. It's a whole methodology of, running your business. And as we moved into this remote world, we realized, boy, we got to have a lot more organization in our meetings. Okay. We got to have a lot more thought and, be prepared to have organization so we can get on, get off, we can get the important things covered and not have 2-3 hour meetings. So that procedure has been very, very effective. I know with our engineers, some of them are doing real well. I think some of them are struggling a little bit. So, and from that standpoint, that's why you got that reaction from me, is I am a little worried about that. Out of sight, out of mind. I'm one of those, I'm older, I'm like a dinosaur now. And I used to be able to walk into a room and I could just hear the activity. Okay. Obviously I don't get that anymore. So, I mean, I'm struggling with that. That's my problem. And that's why I have to put better procedures in place like EOS. And I think that's been very effective for us.
I think I can add one thing to that. One of our core values is to share visible progress. And that's always a tough one at our company because, some people think it's, even on our team, I have to message on it carefully. It's not putting pressure on someone to, make progress. It's just simply sharing that progress. And that's, when you're at the office together, you hear the noises, you hear the people, the hustle and bustle, and you don't have that. So when you're remote, you have to be very deliberate about sharing visible progress. And that means using digital technologies in ways that, we use Confluence internally, by the way, to take all of our meeting notes. It's changed the way that we do our business because it's easy for anyone to actually observe and participate in meetings that they weren't at. And they can see the results of that meeting and see the notes and they can collaborate. I think that's the change that we're moving towards, a greater trust towards asynchronous type activities where, okay, I wasn't there, I didn't see the person, but I see the work, I see the output of that, I see the insights that were achieved. And I think the things that we're starting to see is tools like Confluence, tools like Slack and Teams. It makes that possible so that you don't have to necessarily respond to something immediately, but you can respond to it 3 hours later. And then you're like, oh, okay, good work's happening. Because guess what? We all are in technology and we're in a business of being a goalkeeper, or in the US, a field goal kicker job. Every time it goes to the uprights, everything's great. Every time you block that goal, everything's great. But what happens when something goes sideways? What's going on? And that's ultimately what we struggle with our customers, is that our job is to keep the lights on and keep everything running. And the moment something blinks, then, everything's gone sideways. And ultimately celebrating the wins allows us to then, create this culture of, hey, you're doing awesome. Love the fact that you send me that update. Love the fact that you're doing amazing here. And we have to keep promoting that and allow people to communicate in their own way. And sometimes it's not in that kind of synchronous way that we're used to.
Again, you said celebrate the win, and Perry leant forward. You have to be really careful with that phrase. It's dangerous.
Doing it on purpose.
He'll bang his head on the screen. We need to be really careful with that. Again, we talk about Slack and tools, and I guess maybe in the past, some of those may have been seen as faddish. And that's something we see in technology, right? We see a lot of fads, and maybe during lockdown, we've seen some fads. I've brought my standing desk out for the day again today, especially for this. I think that's probably a fad. It appears every now and then. But, technology fads, that's a big thing, isn't it? We see a lot of that. You mentioned about automation, Joe. I guess you would. I believe you have an interest in that sort of business, right? Is that a fad? Well, listen, we clearly know it's not. But from a mindset point of view, as an MSP, where does that sit? Because maybe I'm not ready for that, and it's something different. Is it actually? It's just a cost, isn't it? I'm handling it without that. Let's get some views there, if we may.
Well, I think it's an imperative that an MSP has to be able to automate better than their end customer, right? You have a responsibility to your customer that you're going to manage IT better than they could internally. That's what you sold them on, ultimately. And the way that you're going to do that is having the processes and the technologies and the people that far exceed what they could do internally. And MSPs are positioned to do that. They are, and in general, like I've been in the MSP business since 2001. I know that to be true. And so with that being the case, a lot of the things that we're thinking about with the newer technologies, are they fads? Are there things that are going to fall flat on their face? I think it's the MSP's community's job to actually test those things out on behalf of their end customer, which means as a business, you have to be on the bleeding edge. That means that you cannot sell Teams and Microsoft 365. Great example, story from my MSP. We were horrible at selling Microsoft 365. And if you guys would go further back to BPOS, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. That was the earlier stage. I care to forget. But when we didn't use it internally, we didn't sell it well. The moment we moved to Microsoft 365, and this was in the mid to late 2000s, then we got it. Then we're like, oh, okay, this is how we should sell it. So my ask of all of the attendees is, if you're selling this technology, make sure you're using it yourself, right? Don't be the cobbler's kids and give more to your customers than what you have internally, because you can't authentically recommend something without using it and valuing it yourself, right? And when you do, then it's no longer a fad. You're going to show them, hey, this is how we communicate. I think you should do it too, right? And it's changed our business. And that's a great thing.
A real need to eat your own dog food, as we'd say here in the UK. So yeah, definitely.
I'm leaning it on. I love that quote.
And again, I don't know if this is faddish, but there's certainly I love the views of you three clever people. There's a lot of leaning towards this new category, they say, of CX or customer experience, right? So VCIO and all those things. So I don't necessarily believe they're faddish, but what's your views around those sort of things? You got this director. Who else sits in that space? Help me, Perry. You've got a tool.
There's a number. Cloud Radio.
Soft there as well. New kids on the block. So
if you don't mind, I'll start with some of this. I don't feel it's a new category at all. I think it's a new phrase. We've always said that we're always in the customer service business. That's what we do. We deliver customer service. It's technically led, but we're everyone in our business is a customer service agent. We're sitting there. You could argue you're a salesperson because you are representing the business as well, but you're there to deliver a service. The phrase CX, UX, all of these, they're phrases. You should, as a business owner, or at least someone who's managing a business somewhere, you should absolutely know the power of good customer service and a good customer experience. And that's the end of it. There shouldn't be any new fad of it. That's what you should be good at above all else.
David, do you want to come in on that as well at all? Any views?
Yeah. I mean, I think we all have great examples of that. I know that my Apple phone, I can, have a conference like this. I can, order things. I can do everything at let's say 100 kilometers an hour, which is kind of dangerous. But the point is it's so elegant and it's so easy to use that I can actually do it with one hand. Obviously, Amazon has the one-click buying. I mean, these type of experiences, you've got to translate that into your own practice. You need to deliver that type of service to your customers. Each and every day, you need to figure out, how can I make the technology that my small business customer is using, how can I make it that much more efficient for them? Because that's who's going to win. You got to be thinking, and you got to get down to that detail and that level of, always improving. And I want to state something that Joe said that I think is really important. You must perfect all these tools internally yourself. It is how all of us MSPs have always sold. We use the product, we understand the value of the product, and then we sell the product down to all our customers. So that's all these things, Slack, Trello, all these things are really, really important now that we've kind of moved to this remote world. Okay. And like I said, 30% of employees probably will stay remote because they're more efficient that way. It's our job to teach those small business owners that we're providing services for how to be successful remotely so that they can understand that they're getting more efficiency than they did back before COVID.
Great, thank you for that. So there's some of those things which, of course, I guess you can sell through customers. So again, you take password management. Okay, I don't think that's a fad, right? That's something that's pretty necessary, pretty needed, and I guess I can sell that concept to my customer. So therefore, that maybe becomes part of my bundle or an option within my tier of service, possibly. Then you have other things such as Liongard, which again, I can't necessarily pass that on as a cost. That is a cost to me, right? So again, it's trying to work out where they are and my journey as an MSP. So any views? Again, Perry, what's your experience of those sort of things? What do you do in terms of things that you do bundle and or tools or things that you bring as a cost? How do you deal with the things?
I've always been quite an advocate of buy a shiny thing as soon as you see it. And so I ended up with a number of tools within Urban. Over this period, we've done a great job of looking at all of those and consolidating them into the ones that we actually do need, not the ones that were just shiny and calling my name louder than the rest. It's the tools are important. Some, yeah, I don't like the term that you see them as a cost, but if you are looking with your accountancy head on and there's a bottom line there is a cost to the business, but it's what it's giving you. And it comes back to that value and that experience again. Things like Liongard, the information that delivers, there's a three-string approach for us with that particular tool. And it comes from documentation, it comes from alerting and automation, so that we're on top of our game. And there's a pre-sales ability to it as well, right? So that's a great tool that we've kept in our business that we're using. If we look to the other colleague that's on this panel with us, the security and the passwords, it's paramount. So we approach that in a slightly different way. One of the bundles of the service we deliver offers password security as a password vault, but it's more a company focused one than an individual to everyone, because that's the stepping stone to get people into good hygiene, good practice. If I went there to a 100-user company and said, this is what we need to do, I'm going to raise your prices by X. As David said, it's not the right time to be doing that. So what you need to do is explain the benefits of these services. So some are benefit to you as a provider. Some are absolutely a benefit and show your integrity back to your clients that you're looking after their security. And therefore there may well be a cost to that, but you can at least show them the way. So it's different approaches.
One thing I might add to that as well is that when we go back to that customer experience thing, or CX, I think the thing that I've started to realize is innovating sometimes is really about looking at the most common things that are going on and providing some kind of incremental outcome there, right? So password management, for instance, talk about a stressful topic for everybody, right? There's such a high tension around, logging into something and not having the password, struggling with it, losing the password, doing the reset, and worrying what happens if I don't get that password. And so when you take away the pain around that and you say, look, there's a better way, right? That there's a better way to do this. Here's what's going on. Or let's talk about your own teams and how painful documentation can be and how frustrating it is. And how much of a struggle it is to get mad at someone to go, hey, why didn't you document that? And you look at that and go, well, did I hire them to go off and copy information from a device or a system and into another system? No, it's not really a good use of their time. And so when we think about innovation, it happens in the most obvious places. It's literally under your nose. And if you think about those things that are most repetitive, right? I do this every day and I get frustrated. Go innovate that. And if you do that, you can do that for your customer. And what you're ultimately doing is you're driving an amazing customer experience, because you're telling the customer, hey, the security concern around passwords and that frustration you have, I've just got a better solution for you. Let me just show you how it's done. This is how we do it. And all you have to do is tell them the story and then speak to the pain point, and it'll sell itself, right? Just like we speak to the pain point of lack of automation around all of the things like managing expirations, on all of the systems, managing privileged identity across all of the various systems, documenting, onboarding. All of these things are like, oh God, I hate that. And we're like, yeah, we're going to automate that for you. And we're going to make it easier. Why? Because every one of your team members needs to be able to manage 10 times more customers and then drive this amazing customer experience we're trying to drive, which is challenging. And so that means we have to give our team members the ability to succeed and do those things, not to try to go off and create some new crazy idea. It's literally to innovate the most basic and regular things that your customers are struggling with. If you do those things, they're going to love you for it, because you've taken care of something they struggle with every day. Like taking their kids to school. If you could go innovate that would be
gosh. Now you're speaking my language.
I already called Uber. They won't take anyone under 18.
So inconsiderate.
There'll be no schools. You've just told everyone to hire teachers, so there's not going to be any teachers in the schools.
Oh no.
That'd be bad.
All right, hold on. I've got a great question here from Jason Carlton, because you were talking about innovation, Joe, and this is an interesting topic. I can't wait to hear what y'all say. So where do you see the future in VR for working from home in a virtual office?
That's a really good topic. I can speak to that because my senior thesis was on virtual reality when I was in college, because I was a computer science graduate. And I love the topic. And that was, by the way, in 1997, when virtual reality was pretty raw. And I look at the Oculus, right now, which is we got that, or Santa Claus got it for the kids, and it's just amazing. It's so immersive, and I think what happens is that virtual reality becomes more immersive and just will be inside glasses like this, so you won't even know, and there'll be a mix between augmented reality and virtual reality where information will be accessible and readily accessible when you need it. When you see a person, their name will show up, so you don't have to freak out about, oh my God, what is that guy's name again? It'll just be there, right? So I think that's where the user experience thing gets better. And when it comes to remote work, yeah, it comes back to, well, how do you create that virtual environment? Nothing replaces physical, but when it comes to people who are remote, how do you make them feel like they're part of the team and they're still there? I think there's a lot that can happen there.
Good stuff. Well, I'm glad we had a computer scientist with some VR specialty there, because I'm looking at David and Perry. I'm thinking we've got nothing to offer on this.
Try it out. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. All I know is every time I put one of those ocular glasses on, I need some Dramamine. I get seasick.
Oh no. Okay.
Well, the good news is here in the UK, we're going to be protected by GDPR, and they're not going to know anyone's names on those glasses, Joe, so it won't serve you very well at all. So we're going towards the top of the hour. So it's a great time to get any last questions from the floor. We've got 3.
Yeah, I've got another one here, actually.
Great.
So what are the guys, one big thing tech-wise to watch for in 2021? Is it more human approach with users to tech, or is it a new application or software feature? What is like your big tech-wise thing on your mind for 2021?
No pressure.
No
pressure.
Great question.
I can go first. The number one thing on my mind is the revenue opportunity of work from home for MSPs. I think it's huge. I think it's massive. It speaks to security. It speaks to protecting ultimately that endpoint device that is connected to the work. But also thinking in terms of the family environment at home. The more secure that is, the more secure that work device is, because that's how attacks happen. And if we are able to, as an MSP community, communicate on why it's so important to also secure the home, then there is an opportunity for the customers of your customers to be able to be out in front of that and do special things for their employees, which is to say, hey, you know what, we're just going to go ahead and give you Cisco Umbrella or Family Shield at home, so you can have DNS protection, because ultimately that's going to protect us, as a business, right? And at the same time, it's going to protect you all at home. And if an MSP can succeed in delivering that kind of message to the CEO of their customers to go, it would be awesome if you took care of your employees at home in this manner. And we have a way to give you something that can make that happen. And ultimately, it's going to reduce costs all around, because we won't have to deal with security issues. Ransomware will be reduced significantly. And so it has this underlying impact. So I just feel like there's just a huge revenue opportunity. And that was just one angle. There's like about 80 different angles with work from home.
I don't think we're going to beat that one, Joe, to be honest with you. I would suggest that the biggest thing that's going to happen this next 12 months is more around human interaction. We're going to crave to be on a beach somewhere, or to be in the UK in a pub somewhere with friends. And I think it's going to be more low tech than high tech. I think we're going to get back to basics. And if you ask many of your peers the things that they've missed, it's not that they didn't get to be able to go and buy a shiny new car or the next iPhone. It's that they haven't got to see their friends or family. So I think it'll be slightly different.
Thank you, Perry. David?
Well, I can tell you that I'm going to get in on the Bumble IPO that's coming out next week. So, no, I'm kidding. That's not the big technology, but Bumble is doing an IPO. Look, I think I'm with Perry and Joe. I don't think it's a particular IP or any type of technology that's going to take hold here. I think it's more of a procedural thing. I think it is, like Joe said, our job is maybe to craft some type of remote expertise review of every single customer at the MSP. Let's sit down. Let's talk about best practices now that we're this new remote office. And, it's going to be simple things like setting people up with backgrounds on their Zoom, setting people up with, some green screens at home, maybe, doing some password protection, doing more documentation, because now that you're a far-flung organization, you better be organized, because if you're not, you're going to lose. So I would say it would be more along the lines of, let's do a health check on your capabilities of being a successful remote company. And I think that's probably the best thing you can do for your customer right now. Remember, the MSPs back 20 years ago, everything was behind our firewall. We would put a little firewall in, and all the employees would come in and do their work behind this firewall. All our applications were on a server behind that firewall. And now everything has left the firewall. Okay, now everyone's beyond the firewall. And so now it's our job as MSPs to really, okay, fine, that's the new reality. Let's figure out how to secure that now that the firewall is gone. So we really need to figure that out. And that's the most important thing we do. And I think we can do that for most of us have small business customers, and they're not sophisticated. It's our job to start helping them become sophisticated.
Yeah, great insight. Thank you, David. Cynthia, do we have anything else coming from the floor? I see a little bit of rugby abuse, something to do with possibly England and Scotland, but just to remind the audience that during the pandemic that no scores actually really count. So just to be clear on that, that's null and void, the fact that Scotland beat England at rugby last weekend. Any others coming through, Cynthia?
No, nothing else right now. We can go ahead. We've got one last little slide to show, just with if you're interested in Liongard or Password Boss. I think Sarah is going to pop that up here in a second, and we'll throw some links in the chat. We do still have a couple of minutes though, so if anyone does have some last minute questions, we can absolutely answer those. So there you go. You can request a demo, and we have some special pricing for TTG and attendees, and then the same thing for Password Boss, and specials there as well. So any last questions? Any last thoughts from David, Perry, or Joe?
I saw a question from Sean Jones. One of the pundits predicted customers will look to review their providers post-pandemic. So how do we reach out now to position ourselves for that situation? And that's an interesting one. So this is I guess customers really evaluating, much like MSPs are evaluating their tools, customers are evaluating their providers. And that's so true. And it's a really good question. And this is why I think it's so important to ask the CEO of your customer this question: what are you doing with technology that I'm not involved with, right? Ask them that question. You're going to hear some really interesting things, and they're going to say, well, I signed up for Salesforce, I signed up for this other technology, and I did this, and yeah, you guys aren't really part of that. And then you need to think about, why am I not part of that? Because therein lies the revenue opportunity. Therein also lies the positioning to be an inside vendor. So as an MSP, I made it my job, because I was the VCIO as well as the COO, but I was the VCIO for our major accounts, but I made it my job to be the inside vendor, to be the one that our customers relied on. And that's something that was very important. And I got to compete against Accenture, IBM Global Services, Cognizant, some of the biggest of the big, and I won. And I won most of the time. I didn't win them all, but I won most of the time. And here's why. I used the human side of working with our customers to really understand and listen to what they're needing, and then understanding, okay, this is something we need to participate in, even if it's free advice. And in some case, maybe it's selling something. And I think it's so critical, because you build that relationship, and the end customer ultimately relies on you to be their technology advisor. And it's the most overused term, right? Trusted advisor in the MSP space, but it's also the most misunderstood. There's an art form to being a trusted advisor. There really is. And it starts with listening. You have to really listen to the pain of your customers and understand their business model, and then know, how am I going to help them be successful? Because if you can help them land an extra customer or be more profitable, you're invaluable to them, right? You're no longer the IT guy or the IT gal, right? You're now their partner. And it's so big.
Oh, he just said, thanks, Joe. Just added that question to my QBR. That's
Hey,
awesome.
can I follow up real quick on Joe's comment there? I've always believed that I like the concept of inside vendor, because I always consider, like, my lawyer is my inside vendor, right? I don't really question his prices. And also my solicitor, in your case, chartered accountant, those are your inside vendors. And you need to become just like the solicitor, and the chartered accountant. You know, you have to be the person on the inside who has a seat at their table, their board of directors table, and always be there helping and offering suggestions on technology. Just like we use the solicitor for any legal questions, just like we use the chartered accountant for any tax questions.
Awesome
stuff. Can I say a huge thank you? But before I do, let's go back to that desert island quickly, chaps, because at some point I'm going to hope to see you, and I'm going to buy you a drink. What's your drink? We decided people process technology. It was people. You've got me on your island. We've dropped a bar in. They've got whatever you want. What am I getting you, Joe?
I'll go with a scotch on the rocks.
Okay, Perry, what are you having?
Pint of beer, David. Pint of beer.
Beer, good British. Well done, David. What can I get you?
To be fair, a Sauvignon Blanc.
Ah, very nice. A nice New Zealand one. Cynthia, let me hand back to you, but let me extend a massive thank you on behalf of Technology to Go for you being our guest today and sharing some great insights. Cynthia, it's all yours.